Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that, well, I think it's probably creating some internal debate for many of you listening. Remote work.
Uh-huh.
It really feels like we're constantly weighing, the freedom of working from anywhere against that pull to be back in a shared office, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that tension really defines the current moment, I think. Since the pandemic, remote work, it's gone from this niche thing to, well, a central pillar of how many people work.
Yeah.
And this shift, it's brought some clear wins, sure, but also some persistent challenges
Mm-hmm.
for both employees and, their companies.
Right. So for this deep dive, we've kind of sifted through a whole range of articles, different discussions, trying to get a sharper picture of where remote work actually stands today
Mm.
and like what its trajectory looks like, the crucial factors influencing it. So whether you're figuring out your own setup or maybe making decisions for your team, or even if you're just, curious about this whole transformation, our goal is really clarity.
Exactly. And our conversation today, it's going to draw from various angles. We've looked at studies on the complexities of remote collaboration, some of the solutions popping up,
Okay.
best practices for companies doing hybrid work, and of course the ongoing debates about, well, the future of work itself.
Right.
We've also weighed the pros and cons, remote versus office, looked at the latest stats, the tech side of things, and even the bigger economic ripples.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because it feels like one minute you hear everyone wants to work from home, full stop.
Yeah.
And the next, you read about these big companies demanding everyone back in the office. So what's the real story? What's the data saying about who's working remotely and what people actually want?
It's definitely a nuanced picture. Globally, the desire is huge. Like one survey suggested a massive 91% of employees want to work fully or almost fully from home.
91%. Wow.
Yeah. And if you zoom in on the U.S., over half of white-collar workers say they prefer remote work at least 3 days a week.
Okay, that sounds pretty clear-cut. So why the big push from some companies to get people back in? Seems contradictory.
Well, that's the contrast, right? Despite those strong preferences, a big chunk of the U.S. workforce, something like 66%, has returned to the office full-time post-COVID.
Huh.
But it's also true that a lot of companies, maybe 71% according to one source, now have policies that allow remote work ongoing.
So the policies are there, but maybe people aren't using the option fully, or companies aren't encouraging it.
Exactly. While a policy might exist, the actual percentage working fully remotely seems to be, well, it varies. Maybe 10%, some say 11%, others up to 27%. Depends who you ask.
Okay.
But look at job seekers for 2025. A huge chunk, 48%, are looking for hybrid roles, and another 26% want fully remote.
That gap between what people want looking forward and the current numbers, that feels significant.
It is.
Are there actual, bottom line benefits for companies that lean into remote options?
Oh, absolutely. Here's a big one.
Mm.
Companies offering remote work. They see about a 25% lower employee turnover rate.
25% lower turnover? That's massive.
It is. Think about the cost savings. Keeping experienced people, it's substantial.
Yeah.
And it seems tied to, autonomy, control over your work. People really value that.
Yeah, I bet that kind of reduction, it really shows how powerful that incentive is.
Yeah.
And it fits with what you hear, right? That people might even take a pay cut for it.
That's right. Several surveys back that up. One found 25% of employees would take up to a 10% pay cut for remote work.
Wow.
Another found 23% willing to take a similar 10% cut.
Wow.
It really shows how much some people prioritize those remote work benefits.
That speaks volumes about priorities. But then, okay, you've got Amazon, Tesla, JP Morgan Chase, big names calling people back. What are their main arguments?
Well, the leadership there, they often talk about efficiency concerns, collaboration, skill development, especially for newer folks.
Okay.
There's this belief, that face-to-face is crucial for those spontaneous ideas. Team bonding, learning by osmosis, basically.
Yeah. And it's not just a few CEOs saying this, right? I remember seeing something about broader CEO expectations.
Yes, exactly. One survey, it showed a really high percentage of CEOs. I think it was around 79% of major U.S. company leaders. They expect a full return to office within the next 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
So, yeah, there's definitely a strong push in many places towards the traditional office model. Again, that tension. Employee desire versus employer concerns.
Okay, so we've got this clear tug of war. Now, for the teams actually doing remote work, what are the biggest hurdles they face trying to collaborate effectively?
Yeah, remote collaboration has its own set of unique hurdles. A big one is just communication friction. You lose the face-to-face cues.
Right, the body language, the quick clarifications.
Exactly. Nuances get missed. Misunderstandings can creep in more
Makes
easily.
sense.
Then you have logistics,
Hmm.
especially with global teams, time zones. Scheduling synchronous meetings could be a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
And just building that trust, that camaraderie,
Yeah.
it's definitely harder when you're not sharing the same physical space day in, day out.
So, given those challenges, how are teams and companies trying to bridge that gap? What solutions are working?
For the communication part, it really boils down to being intentional, using the right tools for the job.
Liked.
Well, synchronous tools like Zoom for real-time talks, but also asynchronous ones, Slack. Project management tools like Asana for updates that don't need everyone online at once.
Okay.
And setting clear guidelines helps, like response time expectations, what channel to use for what.
Got it. And the time zone puzzle, how do you solve that?
Flexibility is really the name of the game there.
Yeah.
Rotating meeting times helps, so it's not always the same people staying late or getting up early,
Right.
and leaning heavily on asynchronous communication. Documenting decisions clearly, sharing updates proactively, that becomes super important.
And what about building that team spirit, the trust, when everyone's remote?
Yeah, that takes conscious effort. Things like virtual team building, maybe dedicated virtual coffee breaks, just informal chats. Using video even for quick check-ins helps.
Seeing faces matters.
It does. And sometimes, if possible, getting the team together in person occasionally can make a huge difference for those connections.
Project management must change quite a bit too, I imagine.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
You absolutely need good project management tools, things that show tasks, track progress, let you share documents easily,
Uh-huh.
and clarity is key. Clear roles, responsibilities, deadlines. Everyone needs to know who's doing what, by when, regular updates, being open about roadblocks, all critical.
It sounds like deliberate communication and just being proactive are the common threads here. What about technology itself? It enables all this, but can it also be a hindrance?
Well, the reliance is total,
Right.
right? So you need robust tools everyone can access easily.
Yeah.
Good internet is non-negotiable.
Sure.
And training, making sure everyone actually knows how to use the tools effectively. Plus, there's always that balancing act, giving people autonomy versus making sure the team stays cohesive. Technology choices impact that.
And for the individual worker at home, how do they stay focused, productive?
Yeah, that takes discipline. Having a dedicated workspace helps immensely. Sticking to routines, using time management techniques like the Pomodoro method, work sprints, then breaks,
Yes, Palma.
and setting boundaries. That's crucial. Knowing when to switch off to avoid burnout.
Okay, so we've talked fully remote. Hybrid models often get mentioned as like the compromise, the middle way. What makes a hybrid setup successful?
Right. Hybrid tries to get the best of both worlds, blending remote and in-office time. The goal is finding that sweet spot for the company and the employees.
Uh-huh.
For global hybrid teams, there are some best practices, like having a really solid communication setup, supporting both real-time and asynchronous stuff seamlessly.
What else is key for hybrid success?
Well-defined performance guidelines, big emphasis on outcomes, not just hours logged in a chair or online.
Results, not just presence.
Exactly. You also need strong tech and security, obviously, to cover different locations. And fostering inclusive teams, that's huge. Making sure remote people feel just as included as those in the office requires real effort from leaders.
So it's not just letting people work from home sometimes. It needs structure.
Definitely. That outcome-focused evaluation encourages productivity and gives flexibility. And, maybe most importantly, you need to regularly review the model, get feedback, look at the data, adapt. It's not set and forget.
And how are employees finding these hybrid arrangements generally?
The feedback seems pretty positive overall.
Mm-hmm.
One report mentioned 70% of hybrid workers feel they have a better work-life balance compared to fully in-office folks.
70% is high.
It is, and you see in the job market too. Hybrid job postings have been trending up. Like late 2024, they were nearly a quarter of all new listings.
Wow, okay. That definitely shows strong appeal for that blended approach. Let's zoom out again then, the big picture. Remote work versus the traditional office. What are the core pros pulling people towards remote?
Well, for many, the upsides are really attractive. That flexible schedule is huge, working when you're most productive, fitting life in.
Yeah.
No commute, saves so much time, money, stress. Improved work-life balance comes up a lot. And interestingly, many studies report increased productivity and performance at home. Plus, you can customize your workspace, and your job search isn't limited by geography.
Those are pretty compelling points. Okay, but what about the downsides? What makes people miss the office or struggle with remote?
Isolation is a big one.
Mm.
Lack of spontaneous social chats, feeling disconnected.
Mm.
Distractions at home are real to family, chores. Also, the work-life boundaries can blur the other way. Difficulty switching off, overworking.
Right, the always on feeling.
Exactly. Communication can be trickier misunderstandings in text or chat. And tech issues, bad internet, needing equipment, can be frustrating and costly. Loneliness and increased stress are also reported by some.
It really sounds like there's no one size fits all. It depends so much on the person, the role, the company culture.
Absolutely.
So, what about the office then? What are its inherent
Well,
strengths?
the office provides structure, a dedicated work zone that helps some people focus. Collaboration can feel easier, more spontaneous, bumping into people, quick chats.
The water cooler effect.
Kind of, yeah. Easier access to support too. IT help down the hall, quick manager feedback. Clearer work-life boundaries for some because work stays at work.
Yeah.
And maybe more visibility for promotions, plus better company control over data security.
Okay. And the cons of being in the office.
Ironically, less productive focus time is often cited. More interruptions, meetings, chatty colleagues, general office noise.
Hmm.
Definitely less flexibility, often leading to worse work-life balance compared to remote options. Some studies show in-office workers report more stress.
Yeah.
And then there's the commute again, cost of work clothes, lunch is out.
It's a really complex trade-off on both sides. Now, technology, clearly it's the engine driving remote work.
Mm.
Can you expand on that role?
Oh, it's fundamental. High-speed internet, cloud computing. That's the backbone.
Mhm.
Allows instant communication, access to everything from anywhere.
Right.
Then you layer on the collaboration tools, Slack, Zoom, Asana, Teams, whatever people use. They basically simulate and sometimes improve on aspects of being together physically. And don't forget smartphones, mobile apps. They give incredible flexibility. Plus, look at the video conferencing market. It's exploding. Expected to be worth, what, over $60 billion soon? Shows how central it is.
And looking forward, how might tech keep changing the remote work game?
Well, you hear talk about better VR and AR tools for more immersive collaboration, like virtual meeting rooms that feel more real.
Interesting.
AI will likely play a bigger role too, automating tasks, maybe improving communication analysis, offering personalized remote support, and cybersecurity, of course, will have to keep evolving alongside all this.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to the wider economy. How is this massive move towards remote work actually impacting things economically?
We're seeing some really interesting effects. Initially, yeah, there was this idea remote workers might earn less, maybe mothers taking pay cuts for flexibility.
Yeah.
But as it's normalized and productivity holds up or even increases, remote roles are often competitive. Some data even suggests remote workers now earn more on average than in-office counterparts, like significantly more, maybe $19,000 a year according to one source.
Wow, $19,000 more. That's surprising. I might have guessed the opposite, with companies saving on office space.
Well, companies do save on real estate, utilities, things like that, but they also recognize remote work as a valuable perk now.
Ah, okay.
Some research suggests offering remote work can actually help companies manage wage growth pressure. It's a benefit that employees value highly, sometimes offsetting the need for bigger raises.
Interesting.
Plus, it lowers overall labor costs in other ways.
Yeah.
Easier access to part-timers, contractors, tapping into talent pools in lower-cost areas, hiring skilled disabled workers who need accommodation.
So it's not just office savings, it's a deeper shift in accessing talent. What about the impact on workers beyond salary?
Well, we mentioned lower turnover. That means more job stability for individuals.
Yeah.
And it definitely broadens job opportunities. You're not tied to your local job market.
Right.
For certain groups,
Yeah.
like caregivers, it offers crucial flexibility to stay in the workforce. And, yeah, saving money on commuting, lunches, work clothes. That's a direct economic plus for remote workers.
And I've heard whispers about it changing, like, where people live, housing markets.
Oh, definitely. That's a major consequence. Less need to commute means people are moving away from expensive city centers, maybe to suburbs or even rural areas with more space, lower costs.
The donut effect.
Kind of, yeah. And it means companies aren't as tied to specific locations either. They can hire the best person wherever they are. The link between HQ location and employee wages is weakening.
Okay, last area, demographics and the future. Who is working remotely right now, typically?
Generally, workers with more education tend to have more remote options. Current U.S. data suggests slightly more men than women are remote workers right now.
Oh, interesting.
And millennials make up the biggest slice of the remote workforce. But it really varies by location, too. Some states, like Colorado, have high rates. Others, like Mississippi, much lower.
Got it. And crystal ball time. What's the prediction for the future of remote work?
The general consensus among experts, it's here to stay and likely to keep growing, maybe stabilizing at a certain level. Employee preference is just too strong.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people who can't work remotely now say they'd consider leaving their job for one that offered it. And the market for remote tech and services, projected for huge growth. Tech advancements will probably just make it easier and better over time.
So, wrapping this all up, it really feels like work has fundamentally changed. Remote and hybrid aren't just pandemic blips, they're a permanent fixture now, it seems.
That really is the core takeaway. This ongoing push and pull between the benefits and challenges, between what employees want and what employers are comfortable with,
Hmm.
that's going to keep shaping how and where we work for, well, the foreseeable future.
Hopefully, this deep dive has given you listening a clearer view of this really complex landscape. Maybe some useful insights, whether you're navigating your own work life or just trying to understand these big shifts.
And as you think about everything we've discussed, the stats, the challenges, the tech, the preferences, it really leaves us with a big question for you. Looking ahead, what do you think will be the deciding factors in finding that future balance between remote and in-office work? For individuals, for companies, what adaptations do you see being necessary?
That's definitely something to chew on. This has just been a snapshot, of course. It's a huge evolving topic. We encourage you to dig deeper into the sources out there and keep thinking about how these trends might affect you and the broader economy. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.